Okay, so we're here, folks. As of last night, Cuomo dropped out. No one likes him. You know why? Because he killed 17,000 old people. During COVID, he rejected Trump's massive hospital boat that was parked on Chelsea Piers there on the West Side Highway. I saw it. It was completely empty and ready to rock, ready to take patients. He put them in old folks' homes because he didn't want Trump to have the win. Therefore,
I am disabled.
His career was over, and that's why he can't run for mayor. Right? Wrong. He was ruined for making a rude comment about someone's ass and for hugging too long. That, in Pound Me Too, as Chris Plant calls it, and Owen Benjamin, has become, he's a, as we discussed yesterday, any sex that you didn't have multiple orgasms in or changed your mind about years later is now. So he's a sexual assaulter. I'm not even kidding. That's the rich kids are in control of New York right now. And now we have a guy. He became a citizen an hour ago. I mean, I'm in a similar boat, but I'm not running for mayor. Born in Uganda. He's one of these, as the Dime Square girls call him. He's one of these international rich people. His parents hate the West. He doesn't consider himself American. And communism is sort of like rocket fuel. You compare it with anything. You compare it with Islam. You could pair it with Catholicism, like these NGOs that are pushing for open borders down south. Pair it with almost anything, and it has power. Now, let me tell you about these rich kids. They're sort of like that chick from White Lotus. They are, well, let's go back a bit to boomers, their parents. So boomers are rich. How do they get rich? Was it luck or was it hard work? Yes, it was. They busted their asses, and they also rigged the system. They changed real estate to mean you could never buy a house. They bought a house when it was affordable. But for all that shit I do on them for ruining education, ruining real estate, inventing divorce, making the printing more money, turning the dollar value into nothing, I'm not going to lie, they busted their asses. You know why they busted their asses? Because they had kids when they were in college or fresh out of college. And I know from personal experience, nothing puts a fire under your ass like having a kid. You want to get rich? Have kids. You don't stop. You don't sit on your ass. You don't Netflix and chill. Even when you're, even this morning, I got up a little too early. My daughter broke her, the plastic lid on her turntable. I got 7 minutes. I break out the crazy glue, which I have tons of from that failed model experiment. Fix that right up. Leave it on some newspapers to dry. You're always doing like that. So they got rich, but they're also workaholics. And then when Gen X got older, my generation got older, they look at us and they go, "What are you doing now? You're going to Europe? I never went to Europe. I was busting my ass." So they kind of resent us. So they don't want to get divorced for revenge, but they got divorced because they don't give a fuck about how it hurts kids. And it destroyed my generation. Half my friends are married because they saw their parents get divorced. And they go, if it didn't work for them, why would it work for me?
Hi, this is Anthony Cumia.
Hello, I'm Gavin McInnes.
And together we're Compound Censored.
And we would like you to subscribe with this deal using this promo code right below me right now.
Do it, because it's very entertaining.
And boomers don't care because they're like, well, I gave away my early 20s to you, so you can go suck my However, they also see all their kids. And I think the Ratliff family is the perfect example of the upper middle class, upper class in America from White Lotus. So there's this sort of jock guy who's daddy's little boy, and daddy doesn't really like him. He's in finance also. He wants to manage dad's hedge fund. But then there's the artsy fartsy one. And he kind of likes him because he goes, "You're living the life I always wished I could live." That sounds cool. I'm into that. And I always say that about Berlin. Berlin is the Piper Ratliff. Berlin is the fun, artsy kid who doesn't work at all or do anything. And then Stuttgart and Munich and all the other cities in Germany are the ones that give it the second GDP next to America. And Berlin generates nothing. And when I'm in Berlin, I always tell people, like, you're not allowed to have a political opinion here. They're all communists, by the way, in Berlin. There's a lot of overlap between the elites in New York City and the elites in Berlin. They want to tell you how to spend their money. They want to tell you how easy it is to pay for everything. Yeah, because your mommy and daddy pay your rent. And that's a great life, sitting on your ass. It's not for me, but that's you won the lottery. You're not allowed to have a political opinion. You're not allowed to vote. You're not allowed to do anything. You're spoiled. Someone else is paying your bills. You haven't moved out if your parents pay your rent. And Williamsburg and Greenpoint, here in New York City, everyone's rent is paid by mommy and daddy. Well into their 30s. And the rent is $5,000 a month, $3,000 to $5,000. Can you imagine your parents paying your rent at the age of 32? This is who has messed with the Zohran. This is who is responsible. People who have their rent paid for them. And rich people, when they travel, they love diversity because they go to nice hotels and everything. And when they see poor people, they go, that's fucked up. They should get free shit like I do. And they want to be generous because they've never worked. So money to them is just this ethereal Tinkerbell floating in the sky. And they go, they should get some of this magic Tinkerbell that I have. Well, your dad, for all his boomer faults, he earned it. And I guess now we're talking about young people. There's a lot of millennials too. So there's a lot of Gen Xers who are rich. I mean, that was there's a lot of Gen X parents. So there's a lot of rich millennials doing this. The few Gen X who didn't have their lives destroyed by divorce. So yeah, I'm talking about Gen X this whole time, but I should be talking about millennials. This is rich millennials whose, I guess, parents could have had a hedge fund from those spoiled Gen Xers I was talking about are now spoiling their kids, and their kids are in their 20s and 30s in Manhattan. So let's just look at who I'm talking about first. This is the demographic. This is them winning. I saw someone, I think in this tweet, they go, wow, they really smell bad. And they don't. Old millennials, young Gen X. Democratic Socialist. Okay, I'm going to put the AC back on. Yay! This, my old pal Chris Knowles brought up an interesting, this is a guy from Newsmax. He brought up a good question. He says, is this education or is it foreign-owned media? That's a great question. Watch the white Midwestern children celebrate a communist victory in America. What was more effective in brainwashing them? Brainwashing is one word, Chris. Liberal schools or foreign-owned social media? And then Peter Hassan says it smells in there. Does not smell in there. I'm going to go with communist education.
Me too, I think.
Yeah. Systemic racism, communism. I feel I may have misled you at the beginning of the show when I said it's Gen Xers who got Zohran elected. It's Gen Xers and millennials. And Gen X money comes from boomers, but millennial money also comes from boomers. It comes from the few boomers that were good enough to give their Gen X kids trust funds. So it's sort of like how Northern Europe has been draining their money supply since they were more free market. Everyone goes, oh, Northern Europe's so socialist. Yeah, they're eating away at their money from when they were much less socialist. And that's sort of why there's rich millennials in Williamsburg and Greenpoint, because they're still living off boomer money. Gen X isn't really known for generating money. So here's the areas I'm talking about, and I'm somewhat culpable for this, you could say, because I created Williamsburg and Greenpoint. When Vice moved there in the early aughts, there was nothing. Cabs wouldn't go to Greenpoint. You might get a cab to go to Williamsburg, maybe. And this is who voted for Zohran. Zoom in on that big orange blob. No offense, blobs. And go up a bit there. So obviously there's all of Brooklyn. Those are the slightly less rich kids. But the rich kids are in Williamsburg and Greenpoint. Look at that. 100%. And you see that white mark in Greenpoint that doesn't have any orange?
Yeah.
Those are warehouses.
Oh, okay.
That's where you see Nathan Fielder for You do his rehearsals. That's the warehouse where he built the Alligator Lounge.
Yeah.
So they're not residential.
Are there still Polish in Greenpoint, or are they mostly gone now?
When I was there, it was 90% Polish in 1990, in the late 90s. But now I'd say it's down to none. Look at Long Island City, too. Long Island City was just weird old Italians. Barely anyone lived there. It was kind of abandoned. And now it's all hipsters. Rich kid revolution, hipster revolution from South Williamsburg, which was Dominicans and Puerto Ricans, all the way up. Amazing. Here's how these rich kids think. Go to 1-8 so you know how their brains operate. Isn't it funny? New York has this vibrant culture. Giuliani cleans it up. When I moved here, we had a great thing going. And I'm partly responsible for this. The rich Midwesterners move in, and they saw Sex in the City, and they want to be like it is on the show. And then they elect Iran. But we're under the Iranian Revolution right now. And what do? Okay, this is my pal John Carney. Perfect summary of their brains. So let's go through it, shall we? Mamdani's program makes a lot of sense if you accept the 11 basic premises of the young Democratic left. 1, redistribution is free. There's no cost to societal wealth from raising taxes and spending on social problems. It may probably even increases aggregate wealth, which is what my Gen X buddy Justin Trudeau said. He said all these government programs actually make money. So, yeah, the same reason that they riot, Antifa and BLM, and destroy Starbucks and all these buildings, that it's insurance pays for it. It's magical money. Don't worry about it. 2, government is effective, and 2, limited. Move it over a bit.
Yep.
Many of the things we rely on the private sector for could be done better through the public sector. The provisions of services and goods by government should be expanded. I remember you had a typo here. We used public when it should be private. Many things rely on the private sector could be done better through the public sector. And this is true of grocery stores. Zohran wants to have government-run grocery stores. And get this, he's so smart. He came with this brilliant idea. Well, the way he's going to make money, make it profitable, is buy things wholesale, like buy 500 blocks of cheese, and then give them to you individually, because they're cheaper that way when you buy in bulk. Something that grocery stores have never thought of. No grocery store has ever bought in bulk. They just go to the grocery store next door and buy a block of cheese, and then they sell it at their store for the same price. He's brilliant. He's never had a job, by the way, just like Obama. Never had a job. He's an organizer. I don't think his parents have had a job. They're academics. Yep. So this is what Bill O'Reilly always said, too. He's like, I wouldn't mind paying insane tax if the roads were paved, if my kids' education was really good, they knew anything about George Washington, you know, if the trains ran on time, I could take the hit. When I drive in Westchester over Quaker Ridge Road, I feel like I'm in Iraq. I get punched in the balls on my motorcycle on a regular basis. I have to replace my tires probably 7 times more than you, because I-95 is such a piece of shit in my neighborhood, and my car's constantly hitting potholes and having the rims popped. So they suck. This is what young people have to understand. When you give the government your money, it goes into a wood chipper and it's gone. It doesn't go to the thing. Like Bernie Sanders keeps saying, we have to take money from the billionaires and give it to the kids so they can get an education and they can have money too. It doesn't work like that. Remember when they lost $3 billion in Iraq? It's on a pallet somewhere in cash. Policing and incarceration rates creates crime. Policing and incarceration creates crime and violence. If we adopt a model of counseling, conflict resolution, and address underlying problems, we'll need far less policing and fewer jails. And Zohran talks about it all the time. He wants to take $1 billion out of the NYPD and give it to, I don't know, services, maybe a community center in the South Bronx.
And the social workers being the police thing, too.
Right. And we did this in LA. LAPD said, okay, let's take money out of here and have social workers go there. They got kicked in the face and stabbed. So they said, okay, we need them to go with an escort, a security guard, but that person should have a carry permit. How about the cops you fired? Yes. Okay. So now cops escort social workers. White supremacy is at the heart of most social and economic problems. Anti-racism is not morally required. It's a program for improving the world. Agreed. And we can thank Obama for putting that back on the map. Intersectionality works. The struggle against poverty, hate, racism, sexism, homophobia, transphobia, climate change is a unified cause. Yeah, great idea. We see that at the rallies where not one sign matches the other sign. Capitalism is the root problem. Even when they function without corruption or monopoly, free markets tend to concentrate wealth and power. Yes, they do. That's called meritocracy. Basketball tends to concentrate to one particular group of tall black guys. Regulation is not enough. Public ownership, worker control, and cooperative models are necessary. Housing is a right. Distribution of housing through market mechanisms is deeply unjust and inefficient. The thing I don't get about housing is a right, too, is why do you get to overlook the East River in a penthouse? Like, why aren't you in Mount Vernon or New Rochelle or Pelham? Why do you get to have an apartment in the East Village? Healthcare is also a right. Healthcare should be free and equal. That one I'm not smart enough to figure out. So 8, we can argue. Lived experience is epistemologically privileged. Subjective identity and experience outweigh empirical evidence and logical arguments in discourse and policy making. So it doesn't matter what you've lived, I guess. I'm too dumb to understand that one. 10, we live in a climate emergency or just climate change, blah, blah, blah. If you're still falling for that, I have zero time for you.
It's
You're
mostly the youngsters falling for that. They think they're going to die.
That's astrology.
Yeah.
Borders are inherently unjust. Restrictions on immigration are continuing. We've talked about this a lot, the whole fucking borders thing. Go to 2.5. I want to show you what they think is going on with the border. This is what we've done to their garbage brains. We just arrest brunettes for no reason. ICE is inherently anti-brunette.
I had a really good time today.
Yeah, me too. I really like.
What are you doing?
She's coming with us.
What are you talking about? Who are you?
I'm your Republican congressman. Now that we're in charge, we're rounding up illegals.
She was born here. She's a citizen.
I don't care. She looks like one of them. But don't worry. When she's in prison in El Salvador, she'll have lots of company.
You're putting her in a male prison? What did he say? That was blocked. The homegrowns are what?
Are next.
Yeah. The homegrowns are next.
So if you enjoyed that clip,
Then subscribe to Compound Censored using this promo code.